Hey guys, Koukun here. I'm here with my brother Koukun, and we are actually at a fourplex that he and his partners purchased around this time last year. And we're going to go into some of the details as to what's required to own a multi-unit investment property. But before we do that, if you're checking us out for the first time, go to the link below. You can get a copy of our beginner's guide to creating a legal basement apartment. A lot of our investors, when they come to us for the first time, start with a legal basement suite conversion where they buy a bungalow, create a basement apartment, and this free guide goes into the requirements for that. So check it out below. All right, let's go in and check this property out. All right, so we're in the kitchen of the vacant unit in this fourplex. So this tenant just left this unit. So Koukun, this property, you've owned it for about a year.
Yeah.
When it came to initially making this purchase, how much did you purchase it for? Where did you get the funds to buy it? And I guess why did you buy this property versus anything else?
This property was worth $800,000. The money was from previous investments that I had where the equity built up. So we refinanced those properties, and that was some of the down payment for this property.
Okay, yeah, perfect. And yeah, why this property versus every other property that was available, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, I've done a bit of duplex conversions, triplex conversions, things like that. And I wasn't really in the mood to do any more construction stuff.
Yeah.
I wanted something that's I don't have to do much work.
Yeah.
And this came up. I actually wanted it at first, like as soon as you showed me, right? But someone else put an offer in first.
Yeah.
Thank God that fell through, and then we were able to swoop in and get it. So that was good.
Yeah, so definitely this property, it was on the market a few times, right? I initially had another client get it under contract. They backed out. Someone else got it under contract.
Yeah.
They backed out,
Yeah.
and then we swooped in as on the third try to get
Right.
this one finally. And actually, I think it was listed for around 845, 850. But that was a time when we could actually negotiate, bring the price down, and yeah, this is one of those examples of a property that cash flows from day one. It was already renovated. There wasn't much to do, but this is where the cash flow on paper is sometimes not always the cash flow in reality. So why don't you share a little bit, how has this last year been for you?
Yeah, so this property has been the only property that I had like tenant issues. So as soon as we got this property, we had an inherited tenant. So I didn't get to choose the person. And from the beginning, he started giving excuses that COVID did not allow him to work. So he cannot pay. We tried to work with him. We tried to get him on payment plans. We told him we'll forgive him. I think it was like 4 months in. We told him we'll forgive him the 4 months rent. Just leave, right? He's like, yeah, sure. And then he doesn't leave, right? So just kept going on, and then we had to wait for the landlord tenant board. They're backed up.
Yeah.
So there's no way to like speed up the process. So yeah, and finally after 10 months, he just up and left. Like he abandoned the unit.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it worked out.
It works out. And I think financially, this is one of those deals where because the cash flow was strong enough, the other 3 units that are rented was more or less able to cover the cost. There was a little bit of...
We were break even.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is not common to see that, you can have 1 out of 4 tenants not pay and still cover your costs, right?
Yeah.
So definitely that was one of the benefits of this property, but it also goes into the pros and cons of the different investment strategies. So this property, we're on the east side of the downtown, in between sort of the rough neighborhood and a decent area. So it's not in like a prime neighborhood. But even the price, so we got this home for $800,000 for 4 townhouses. So that's $200,000 a townhouse, which is a ridiculously good deal. And the cash flow numbers when fully rented was phenomenal. But given the area, we kind of had a problem that we couldn't fully protect ourselves from because it came with 3 tenants. 2 are great, 1's not. Now, moving forward, you're able to rent it to your ideal tenant profile.
Exactly. Yeah.
You're going to protect yourself that way. And actually, you're able to bump up the rent almost, 150 or so. And these units have separate hydro and gas.
Yeah.
So the tenant's going to pay their own hydro, their own gas. So it's going to be a phenomenal boost to the cash flow, right? Yeah. So if someone were interested in a deal like this, right, maybe yourself prior to purchasing this property, what advice would you give them? You know, pros and cons, and just any general advice as to what to expect on a larger deal like this.
Just do it. It's pretty hands off. So as long as you're the kind of person who wants to sit back and relax, you know, while that, you know, you can manage it yourself, but it's a very hands-off approach kind of investing. If you want to be more hands-on, get a bigger rate of return or something, then probably not for you. I mean, I guess you could do work if you want to.
And
but
when you say hands-off, it's hands-off because you both bought a turnkey property and you have property management to take care of the day-to-day with the property, right?
exactly. And my goal wasn't to like flip it or renovate it and do a lot of like work. So that's why it didn't have much management.
Yeah, so this property, given the condition, 4 renovated units, separate hydro, separate gas, it's got to be worth at least $1 million, maybe even more, right? Because the rent roll itself is probably north of 6,000 at this point, plus some gas and some hydro. So the income is phenomenal. And yeah, it's just a long-term buy and hold. You're gonna get good returns over the long term, so definitely. All right, so we're now at the back of the property. You can see this unit is special. It has quite a nice deck at the back. So we're gonna go into a little bit of the details on this purchase. So Koukun, this purchase was done in a joint venture partnership, but your joint venture partnership is a little bit of a different structure than what's commonly out there. Why don't you share a bit of the partner you have on this deal? What was the structure and why did it make sense for you to do that?
So my partner is Rafe. He's my friend from high school, and we've been friends for over a decade. So I introduced him to real estate investing, and he's already bought a property himself. And yeah, so this deal worked out because I had equity from previous properties I've had before. So I had the down payment to buy a property like this, but I did not have the income to support the mortgage. Whereas Rafe, it was the opposite. He had a good income, so he could qualify for a mortgage, but he didn't have the capital for the down payment. So we kind of split it 50-50, and we were able to work out a deal where it worked out for both of us. Yeah. We tacked on his brother later. Yeah, his brother wanted to also have a piece of the deal, so he took a piece of Rafe's deal as well, and yeah, so they're partners in that part.
Yeah, and this makes sense because on a purchase of 800,000 plus, like the down payment.
Yeah, this
itself,
is the biggest property I've purchased.
It's not easy to come up with these kind of figures
Definitely.
without already having owned properties. And this way, you both brought something to the table, right?
Yeah.
So you brought some equity and experience, right? He brought some equity and his credit, and it was a partnership that made sense for both of you, which is different than some JV partnerships where the person with experience may come and ask for the money and credit partner to bring the entire down payment and the entire credit. Here, even though you had the experience, you still brought half of the money to the table. They brought half the money to the table. So in a way, if you're looking to get into JV partnerships, this is something to consider, right? Especially if you have some money to work with and credit is the limiting factor. It's definitely an easier sell, right? You're not telling them they have to give up half of the equity even though they're putting all the money. Here it's a 50-50 split, but you've brought half the money as well as your experience and it's sometimes easy to discount what experience is worth, but the stuff we've gone through over the last 8 years of investing together, all the challenges and the skills we've learned, it is far more valuable than people expect, right? So you bring so much to the table having gone through all of that. So yeah, I think this was a phenomenal deal and a phenomenal sort of structure and partnership to make it work. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video. We're definitely trying to show more of these type of investment properties, not just our duplex conversions, which is kind of our bread and butter. If you're interested in the duplex conversions, definitely check out the link below. And if you have any questions, feel free to comment below, like and subscribe. All the best.